Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. I know, Hour of Devastation preview season isn't supposed to start for a little bit, but here we are. And while these cards are technically leaks, they were leaked from Wizards' official website, so you decide how much of a leak they are. Before we jump into some Bolas goodness, click the first link in the description to enter a giveaway for a Mana Crypt, Expedition Breeding Pool, and Foil Mana Crypt. All you have to do is subscribe to some amazing channels. We'll ship these cards anywhere in the world, expensive cards for free, just click it. Alright, let's do this thing. Bontu's Last Reckoning is one of anything and 2 black for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. Holy mother of a Ketra, this is the future of unconditional wrath, and I love it beyond belief. 3 mana to wipe out everything? I will gladly lose a turn of mana for that. On your next turn, you still get to drop a land and draw a card, so for a control deck, it's not all bad. This is going to be a huge game changer in Standard. Remember, this is a black unconditional wrath effect. It's obviously going to be about whether or not you can deal with that drawback, but again, as a control deck, if your options are to die to these creatures, or blow them to smithereens and lose mana next turn, that isn't really a choice. Bontu's Last Reckoning may not be Damnation or Languish, but it's certainly playable. I'll tell you that right now. Can't argue with cheap and powerful. Nicol Bolas God-Pharaoh is 4 of anything, 1 blue, 1 black, and 1 red for a 7 loyalty planeswalker. You can +2 and target opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. Until end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. You can also +1 and each opponent exiles 2 cards from their hand. You can also -4 and Nicol Bolas deals 7 damage to target opponent or creature an opponent controls. And finally, you can -12 and exile each non-land permanent your opponents control. I mean, wow. Nicol Bolas didn't come to play around. 7 mana for a 7 loyalty planeswalker is okay on the face of it, especially since he can +2 right off the bat. Actually, speaking of, that +2, absurd. Sure, it's like rolling the dice, but that's card advantage. You get to cast the card for free, and if there were any lands in their deck, those are gone now. You're just tearing through your opponent's deck, finding legit anything, and playing it for free. That's so much card advantage. That's how you have to look at it. Each time you use his +2, you're really drawing a card and potentially removing some of theirs. It's all upside. Now his +1 is going to play very nicely in Commander, obviously, just a casual all opponents exile cards from their hands, no big deal, classic Bolas. But even in a 1v1 standard game, that has value, again, especially late game. Bolas isn't a walker that you're going to get out early, so when you do play him, you might find that exiling 2 cards of your opponents means exiling the 2 best cards they've been holding on to. There's lots of value there. His -4 though, now that's crazy. 7 damage to a creature or player, no big deal, whatever. It's a giant dome to the face. And he can activate it twice after a simple +2 or +1 activation. Straightforward, but destructive. And finally, his -12, it is so beautiful. Exiling all non-land permanents your opponents control, that's obviously geared towards Commander, and that's where it will shine. Because in Standard, if you can get to 12 loyalty, that means you actively stopped whacking your opponent for 7. Doesn't seem like a solid play, to be honest. Anyways, Nicol Bolas seems amazing. He seems like everything a late game control deck would want. The problem? Aetherworks Marvel. Yeah, this dumb thing doesn't just play Ulamog. It lets you cast any card, not just creatures, which means that an early Bolas isn't out of the question. Welcome to the new nightmare. If Marvel doesn't get banned, that's what we're building. Now, if it does get banned, remember this little number, we'll still have Dark Intimations, which means we can -4 Bolas twice. That's 14 direct damage over 2 turns. Not bad if you ask me. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Samut the Tested is 2 of anything, 2 red and 2 green for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. You can +1 and up to 1 target creature gains double strike until end of turn. You can also -2 and Samut deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 target creatures and or players. And you can -7 and search your library for up to 2 creature and or planeswalker cards and put them onto the battlefield. Okay, Samut is really difficult to analyze. 4 mana for 4 loyalty is and that +1 granting double strike could come in handy, especially if you have some trampling creatures, but look at Standard right now. The best red-green decks that run enough creatures to make it work are energy decks, and there isn't much room for something like this, which means that Hour of Devastation is going to have to change up the game a bit, which I have no doubt that it will. Samut's +1 is fine, but it isn't exactly the impact you want after immediately spending 4 mana on this. Now let's talk about her other abilities. Forked Bolt is straight up her -2. Now on the face of it, that's decent. Forked Bolt has always been a powerful card, and the ability to split damage, it's valuable to say the least. The growing problem I see here, she isn't very good at stabilizing the board against you. If anything, she seems like she would only be good in situations when you're ahead. More like a cheerleader than anything else. Her only real catch-up ability is her ultimate, which is basically a crazy strong tooth and nail, which, don't get me wrong, is outrageously powerful, but to get to that, you have to spend 3 turns giving something double strike. It's a pretty minor impact if you're fighting not to fall behind. And sure, Planeswalkers can be difficult to figure out when they're first revealed, but I think it's pretty safe to say that Samut just doesn't have what it takes. Her ability to protect herself in her -2 is alright, but 2 damage usually won't clear a board by the time you have 4 mana. Granting double strike to a creature isn't something you care about doing if you're behind, since it falls off at the end of the turn, and her -7 is many turns away from when you cast her. I just can't see a situation where she comes down and you claw your way back in a game where you're behind, you know? If she does see play, it'll have to be in some type of red-green energy or aggro deck, but even then, she blanks pretty hard without creatures. I don't know, I'm not impressed. I want to be, but I'm not. What do you think about these Hour of Devastation cards? I have to know where you're at. I mean, I think Bontu's Last Reckoning is legitimately insane, I honestly do. I think Nicol Bolas is exactly what I expected. Giant, intimidating, powerful, 10 out of 10 for me, just afraid of Marvel. And I think Samut is a bit underwhelming, but please tell me what you think. Leave all your thoughts and comments down below and we'll talk about them. Also, be sure to stay tuned to the channel for all the Hour of Devastation information you could ever need. And as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. This video was brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. Well, clearly things are going off the rails fast, but guess what? Life comes at you fast, and you can already pre-order Hour of Devastation on TCG Player right now. $95 per box. Great price, especially if you don't have a local game store or yours is charging way too much money. It's always nice to have this online option for you. If you want to jumpstart on the season, click the link on the screen. Helps the channel. Win-win. Enjoy.
What?